Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Hey, welcome everybody. And thank you guys for coming in and checking us out today. Welcome to the lovely Counterpoise podcast. And this week we have a great show. I am your host, Everett Stevenson, joined with my lovely co-host.
Hi, I'm a hostess. I'm the only hostess, but I am one of the co-hosts. My name is Samantha Adams.
Hi, everybody. My name is Malik Foster. I'm another co-host for the Counterpoise podcast.
And again, just to echo my co-host Everett's sentiments, welcome. And like you said, we have a really good show planned for you today. Today, we're going to be talking about domestic terrorism here in the United States. And, in the past couple of weeks, there have been a number of shootings, but we're going to focus on two and a half, I guess, today, with regards to the domestic terrorism that's been taking place post-COVID-19, almost as a symbol that the pandemic is over, even though we know it's not. But, first, we want to talk about the first one that happened in Atlanta, where you had that guy, I think his last name was Snow or something. I don't know. I try not to remember those people's names because I think that when you start functioning in that type of a violent terroristic space, I don't think that their names really matter because they didn't think the lives that they took mattered. But we're going to talk about that one first and address Asian hate. Then also, too, we're going to touch on the relationship between Black folks and Asians, because we always try to push the culture forward and address certain things that happen within our own community. So the situation with that guy, he went and bought a gun same day, went down the street, maybe it wasn't down the street, but went a few miles down the road to a spa and shot some people, hopped in his car, got on the highway, drove about 20, 30 minutes down to Midtown, Buckhead, Atlanta, shot some more people, then went across the street and shot another person. That one was hard for me because that third shooting, that woman, that was her first time ever at a spa and she died. 8 people died. 6 of them were of Asian descent, if I'm not mistaken. And, it's disturbing. It's disturbing to me. These mass shootings, the way that they happen, it's such a crazy dynamic because you first have that mass shooting thing, then you have something that is triggered by hate. Now they're trying to say that this wasn't a race-related shooting, but I kind of find that hard to believe when 6 out of the 8 people that were murdered were Asian. I know we have a video. Malika's gonna go ahead and get into that one for us, and then we can go ahead and talk about it.
I have a video, guys. Actually, 2 videos about this topic. First, about the race hate towards Asians. It's a video with the sheriff. He has some commentary about it. So let's get into it.
Okay.
Can y'all see my screen?
Yep.
All right, let me see.
And he was pretty much fed up at
Good.
the end of his rope. And yesterday was a really bad day for him. This is what he did. And he was pretty much fed up at the end of his rope. And yesterday was a really bad day for him. And this is what.
Okay.
So
I had to play that twice because I wasn't sure if I heard him the first time.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about it? I have my thoughts, but maybe you want to go first, Sam?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, yeah. So it's interesting that the sheriff's going to say that the guy's having a bad day, and he murdering people. I've never heard that done for any other group of people. So clearly, this attacker must be from the the same lineage as this guy. He must be white, because clearly black people, a lot of black people are having bad days, but they don't use that as an excuse. They always say, hey, this big, tall, aggressive man, he could be 12, it could be a child, it could be 12 years old, but it's like, oh, he was abnormally big for a child. There is some sort of aggressive, dominant feature that will make people scared and fearful of that individual. But when it's a white person, it's like they're having a bad day, they're on drugs, they had a bad parental household. It's always some excuses, always some excuses. So I'm not buying any of this. They're guilty until proven innocent, in my opinion, when it comes to this stuff, because they've proven that they're going to cover it up, they're going to make excuses, they're trying to see how far they can go and bend the laws on the books and see how far they can manipulate the laws, because apparently it's like two sets of laws for white folks and people who subscribe to white supremacy and hate, and then there's the laws for everybody else. And that's apparently what is at issue here. And that sheriff really echoed those sentiments, like, oh, he's just having a bad day. I'm like, a bad day? Really? So those are some of my thoughts on it. Y'all guys have anything, Sam?
Yeah, I definitely have I have to. Oh, Everett, you want to go? You're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, no, I definitely wanted to jump in on that one. And say that because like I agree with you. I heard someone say this the other day that there's like, in this world, it's kind of like three people, right? There's whites, there's non-whites, and there's white supremacists. And like I think what we're kind of seeing in a sense with some of these terrorist attacks, and then the way in which they're not being categorized as such, the way in which they're not necessarily being deemed the way in which they are not being adequately addressed as the threats in which they are to society, and called out based on their race, it lets you know that when you hear terminology about race, you should like kind of look to see why it is, like, right? Because like they say sometimes, just recently I listened, and like they'll say, like, a lot of times they'll break down the demographics of things, and they'll say, oh, black men versus black women, you know what I'm saying? So this percentage of black men voted for, Biden. This percentage of black women voted for Biden. But like a lot of other times, they won't really break down other races and say, okay, well, this percentage of, Latino women, or this percentage of, Asian women. And so it's one of the things that, thank you. It's one of the things that allowed me to realize that, it's one of the things that allowed me to realize that, like, sometimes when you hear race and it's not something in particular about black race, that you should kind of like look at it. And when you don't hear race, it's something that you should look at and question as well. Like, why are these, like, you understand, why is race not being brought up in this situation? Oh, okay, that's because we want to protect maybe, the overall individuals, and we don't want, the majority of people to be categorized by these individuals. We kind of want to allow them to be outliers for the race. But then again, when it comes to some things like crime stats, we want those to be generalizations. So we'll use race in that terminology. So that's one of the things that I think is like kind of puzzling to me, when we look at how these attacks have been happening around the nation as we continue to go on, and the conversation of race hasn't necessarily been brought up except for the victims, but still not necessarily the suspects who have been creating these crimes. That's interesting to me.
I think it's interesting too. I think we just need to make it clear for our viewers, we don't care who did it. It's the fact that it happened. But what we're talking about is the fact that it just happens to be, especially when you're looking at mass killings, when you look at these type of race-related crimes, it tends to be one particular group of demographic against everybody else. And that touches on what you were saying, Everett, as far as like you have white supremacists, like the three groups, the white supremacists, the whites, and then everybody else, the non-whites, right? So there's a tendency for it to be white supremacists versus everybody else. You know what I mean? And even if you have those three groups, that's what where the battle is, right? And when you say white supremacy, it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's a white person. It's somebody that subscribes to white supremacy. You know what I mean? And the problem with that is people get hurt. And so here in this particular situation with that particular sheriff trying to excuse that man's behavior for killing those people went to work one day. That's it. They got up and they said, I'm going to go to work so I can make money and I can live and I can protect and take care of my family and potentially send money back to my home country if that was something that they saw fit, or just to live their everyday lives. Imagine getting up one morning and saying, I'm going to go to work, and then somebody comes in your job and shoots and kills you. All you did was go to work. You know what I mean? And so, you know, it's very sad. One of the other things I wanted to kind of touch on was how people act when it comes to these kinds of things. Like, you know, you have the whole new hashtag of Stop Asian Hate, right? So now we've got the Black Lives Matter, we've got Stop Asian Hate, I mean, there's so many hashtags. Before the show, Malik and I were talking about all the hashtags, you know, from the different races to the different cities to the different individual names to justice for so-and-so to stop doing this. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting because that type of mentality, it's disgusting. And then, you know, the other part about it that I'm going to segue into really quickly is out here in Atlanta, literally like a few days after that. No, I'm not going to segue into that yet. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. I'm getting ahead of myself. But, you know, when you talk about that, there's also the whole relationship between Black people and Asian people, that it's almost like this unspoken thing between Black people and Asian people. And there's like beef, drama, whatever you want to call it, however you want to subscribe. I mean, yeah, however you want to characterize it. Because what happens is you have Asian people that come into the Black community and they capitalize off the Black dollar and then they go back to their neighborhoods. But the problem is that while there, I'm not going to say everybody, but there are many that treat Black folks as if they're still second-class citizens, or like they're better than Black people, but they're still willing to take their money. It doesn't happen with everybody, but it does in fact happen. It's like going into the corner store or the liquor store or whatever, and you have the Asian lady who owns the store, or her husband owns the store, and she's telling you to hurry up and buy so you can get out her store, or the folks that are following you around, or treating you poorly when you go to the nail shop, or not really being very customer service friendly to you when you go to the beauty supply store, things like that. And we touched on certain things like that when we, in another episode, when we talked about customer service and the Black dollar. But like there's an article here that Malik has talking about racial profiling from with the Black women and anti-Asian attacks from racial profiling. You have that, Malik?
Yeah, I have an article and video. Let me pull up the article real quick.
And while he's pulling that up, I just wanted to add in here real quickly that, like, you know, again, I think we all can say that it's an injustice anytime a person is attacked solely based on their race, because no one should be, you know what I'm saying, subjected to any type of specific hatred solely based on their race. But I think that what we have to do is we have to also look at the fact that, like, when it is a certain technical race, like, why is it that, you know what I'm saying, individuals are protected? Why is it that these individuals are brought in with their lives, like with enough respect that they can, you know what I'm saying, be apprehended, versus, you know, the way people get treated when they approach, you know, some people who in a lot of cases end up being victims and not even, you know, individuals who committed a crime or anything like that. So I think that's something that we have to definitely look at and question whenever we are out here in society.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that statement. I think it's terrible because we all do have to share this planet together, and the way that we are with one another just isn't really right. You know what I mean? So yeah, we can see the screen. Malik, want to go ahead and get into that?
Yeah, so basically, this two black women, they were shopping in a beauty supply store out in Texas. I want to say out of Houston, right? Um, as you can see, there's their name, DeQuisha and Keandra Young,
Hmm.
Miss Williams and Miss Young. And what happened was they they are charged with assault. Um, whether this take place March 17th, I believe. Yeah, there it is, March 17th. It says in the aftermath of the Asian-owned businesses that were attacked out here in Atlanta, where Sam was just mentioning earlier. These women, they believed that they were being racially profiled, so they were defending themselves. That's what they're saying when they beat up one of the Asian women in the store. There's a little short clip of it. It's like 20 seconds here, and this is kind of what happened. So I guess she just went on an attack, um, and that's what they're being charged for, assault. Um, yeah, that's really bad.
That is bad. You know, they're
But
lucky they didn't get charged with battery as well. That's number one.
right,
Number
so that's
two, I know that they say that the tape was doctored. It could have been, it might not have been. You know, that's something for their lawyers to try to iron out if they choose to go to trial. But I will say that it's just sad that we're living in a world where we even have to have this conversation. You know what I
right,
mean? Whether it be because they were in fact being profiled, which is very, very possible. Violence isn't really the answer, though. You know what I mean? You can always just leave the store and not give them your money. You know, I know, I personally have. I'm pretty sure Malik and Everett have had experiences too where they've been profiled. I mean, they're black men. Of course, they've been profiled. I'm a black woman. I've definitely been profiled. I've gone into the store getting followed around. You know, people sitting there watching you. You feel like, and you can feel the eyes on you, or people skipping you, the cashier skipping you in line, or you know what I mean, not seating you at a restaurant, or we've all experienced that. I never forget one time, it was so obvious. I was at a restaurant. The host was a black man. He sat me down. He was the only black person that worked at that restaurant. I sat down. I was on my lunch break. My lunch break was only 30 minutes. I sat down. I sat there for 20 minutes and nobody even asked me if I wanted a glass of water. It was so bad that the host came over and was like, "Nobody came over yet?" And I was like, "No." And 5 minutes after he came over, because it had been 20 minutes at that point, 5 minutes later, I got up and walked out and never went back because servers had walked past me. I'm looking at them. I'm trying to get their attention. They were ignoring me. And I made the decision I'm never going back there because they don't need my money. And I told and this is like pre social media. So, I made sure I told everybody at my job. I told everybody that I knew, hey, don't eat there. I believe that they're racist because this was my experience, and so you always have a choice, but,
yeah, Sam, you do have a choice, but sometimes you want to defend yourself as well on
Do
the
we
other side of the
really?
argument, and also you want to. I mean, I'm not saying those ladies in that are right. We gotta let
okay.
the law figure that out, sort that out, right? But what I'm saying is, like, a lot of times when you're in these black communities and these Asian businesses have their businesses, it's well known within the black community that these Asian businesses are racially profiling, they're mistreating you, they're not treating you like the other customers. So it's like they're willing to come into your community, make the money off of you, but then still treat you like trash when you're the backbone of their business. And if without them, you're gonna go out of their business. So essentially, when the pandemic first hit, Asians got hit really hard with their Chinese restaurants, their black beauty supplies, all that stuff, because people weren't able to do business with them. So now it's kind of like a little backlash of that, and a lot of people are feeling some type of way because the coronavirus we first heard about it from China, so Chinese people aren't going to get they're not going to get a good reputation with that, because the coronavirus really messed up the world, and people are hearing reports that it was out of a lab or a Chinese person ate like a weird animal. So it's a bad reputation with the coronavirus and Chinese people, but that's still no excuse to physically harm anybody or anything, because it's not
Right.
that individual's fault specifically.
And
So
just to be clear, when you talk about Asian hate, that doesn't necessarily mean everybody from Asia is Chinese, because you also have Japanese, Indonesian, Korean. But let's not get it twisted. You also have Middle Eastern. The Middle East is a part of Asia. I know people don't like to think about it like that, but when you think about the continents, when you think about the continents, Asia is a continent.
Central Asia.
Right. You know what I mean? So, and quiet is kept. When you think about that term Asian hate, it includes treating, people from the Muslim community like everybody from there is a terrorist, just because of 9/11. It's not spoken of in this circumstance, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't include them also. You know what I mean? And so I think just have to be clear about that. When you talk about stopping Asian hate, there's that. And no, but you certainly should defend yourself against, prejudice but everybody has a different way that they choose to fight, right? Some people will speak up, some people will keep their money in their pocket, or they'll spend their money where it's welcome, things like that. But violence is just not the answer.
Yeah, no, I agree
you can
with you guys.
protest, you can tell everybody, you can.
Violence definitely isn't the case. You know what I'm saying? And it's something that's like, we got to sit there and we got to look at this whole thing. And I think it's something that the country has to address. I know one of the things that I've been seeing is that Biden's been looking to do possibly something with gun control recently. And, I'm excited, or not excited, but I'm interested to see what that might look like, seeing as how, this is one of our fundamental rights. It's the right to bear arms. And so, and also how that base of majority of the individuals who do have guns, you know what I'm saying, are some of the same individuals who are committing these crimes. I know some of the things that they were looking to say was like a lot of the times that, gun control was supposed to be used because of the fact that, well, gun control wasn't necessarily because of the fact that there may have been individuals who had acquired these guns illegally. So, most of the people who are registered gun owners aren't. But I like to believe that, some of the individuals who recently have done these mass shootings aren't buying these guns illegally. You know what I'm saying? These are registered gun owners. And so that's something that I think is something that I would like to see how this country looks to address as we move forward in light of these attacks that seem to be occurring more and more frequently.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on something you said. Yeah, President Biden, he wants to do new gun control measures. He wants it to where, we can't have any guns online. Like, you can't do any gun sales online. So essentially a ban on gun sales online. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but, we got to do something. We have to change something in order to try to solve the problem. So I think you could start by, punishing people to the full extent of the law and not giving them, slaps on the wrist. That happens. And number two, of course, increasing the background checks, making it more difficult to get a weapon, because there's too many guns on the street, to be honest. It's way too many guns on the street in this country illegally. Like, everybody's like, oh, was it illegal or illegal? Most of these people just walk in the store and get the gun. Like, it's very legal what they're doing. So, I think people need to go through a more strenuous process in order to achieve a weapon. But I don't, and also maybe a ban on assault weapons. I'm not against all that either. So that's something that's on the table as well.
Yeah, I think that we just definitely, as far as gun control is concerned, just gotta figure out the right way to go about doing it, because I think number one, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Definitely making it more difficult, but within the confounds of the Second Amendment, because you got to be like, it's a definitely a balance, but you definitely have to be careful to not restrict, legal gun ownership, right? Like you don't want to make it too difficult for people to be able to own guns, but you don't want to make it too easy for guns to fall into the wrong hands legally, right? So I think that it's definitely a tough argument to make, because people should be able to buy guns as long as they're going to be responsible gun owners. But one other thing that I wanted to say before we move on to the next part of this portion of the segment is that one thing you didn't say, Malik, that I'm pretty sure you were intending to include in different potential ideas is also maybe classes. You know what I mean? Like there should be mandated classes in everywhere, because when you talk about the gun laws in different states, like in California, the gun laws became more strict after the Black Panther Party went up in the State House with their guns. But they didn't march up in the State House with their guns like they did when they did that attempted coup on the State House. On the Congress building. What they did was they had their guns in protest. They weren't pointing them at anybody. They weren't trying to harm anyone. They literally were just saying, hey, we have a right to bear arms, and you all shouldn't be treating us Black folks differently just because we have that right. And when they did that, California has some of the most strict gun laws in the country. So I think, like I said before, there has to be some sort of a balance, but it should be a balance based on what's right and what's wrong, and not about race. But as it relates to that, when you're talking about specifically with the Asian hate, Black people have always stood by everybody. Black folks tend to not inherently be racist. They may be more prejudiced, but not really racist. And a lot of that stems from our treatment historically and, even our own personal experiences. And so with the whole Stop Asian Hate thing, there have been many, many Asians that have been looking to Black people like, hey, stand with us. But Black people stand with everybody. You know what I'm saying? We don't, when we see an injustice, because we know what that feels like, we tend to stand with people. Now, of course, you're going to have bad apples that do subscribe to white supremacy, but at the end of the day, we stand with everybody. And we did come across this clip that we found to be very interesting from an Asian woman, and she's talking about, how Black people have been there for Asians. You got the clip ready there, Malik?
Yeah, I got it ready.
Okay, let's watch it. Let's check it out.
Let's see what she has to say.
I'm done with you Asians who think having a race war with the Black community is in our favor. No, it fucking is not. And you always want to bring up Black people attacking Asians during the post-COVID era, which has happened a few times, but guess what, bitch? There are going to be bad people in every race. Remember, anti-Asian is always rooted in white supremacy, but a person of any race can be influenced by white supremacy. So those Black people that attacked us were subscribing to the white supremacist narrative that Asians caused COVID. And if you blame Black people as a whole for the anti-Asian hate crimes, you're subscribing to the white supremacist narrative that Black people are inherently aggressive. And y'all Asians who are like, why aren't Black people standing with us? Bitch, be grateful, because they've always stood with us. Frederick Douglass in 1882 made the time to openly denounce the Chinese Exclusion Act while the Black community was going through so much, such as rampant lynchings against them. They worked hand in hand with us to free the Japanese people in the internment camps in 1942, and we directly benefited from Black-led civil rights movements every single time. So stop blaming and demanding things from them, and unlearn your anti-Blackness first. I'm done with you Asians who think having...
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that she didn't really go too deep into was, how Black people have stood with Asians, especially during the civil rights movement, and how, Asians were able to directly benefit from that. Case in point, the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party was created as the Black Panther Party for self-defense. It was to protect our community, but they weren't only for Black people. You had Black Panther parties in other communities as well. You had them joining the Black Panther Party. That's how you came up. That's how Fred Hampton came up with the Rainbow Coalition, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, just do your read your history, look into it. You know what I mean? Do you guys have anything you want to say about that video?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on it, specifically about why, when she mentioned why Black people aren't standing with Asians as much as they would like them to stand with Asians. I feel like it's a part of the mistreatment. Like it's well known in our community and the Asian community relationship. Like there's a lot of mistreatment that goes on with the Asians, particularly when it comes to economics and business. Like they don't really respect Black people when it comes to business, even though they'll gladly take their money, but they don't really respect them when it comes to business stuff. So it's like we're shopping with you, support your businesses, but you don't really respect us as individuals. So when something goes wrong, then that's when you want to, get Black people support. Like, hey, we need to change the legislation. We need y'all to help vote for this and that because there's more Black people than Asian people in this country, so they could use the backbone of the Democrats, which is Black people, which clearly was shown in this past election that Biden won because of Black people, right? If Black people just all decided to stay home, Biden would not be president right now. It would be Trump because Trump got a record number of votes, but that's neither here or there. But yeah, the disrespect of Black people continues by Asians by saying that, from Asians, by them saying that, you're not helping us out. Why? What's going on? Well, you're mistreating our communities. We shop with you. You still disrespect us. Even going back to the article, those women felt like they're being racially profiled, whether they're right or wrong or not, but that's what they're saying. And that's a common theme among Black people in this country when dealing business with Asians, that they're always mistreating them, racially profiling them, and not respecting them at all as people. So those are some of my thoughts on it. You got anything, E, Sam?
You're on mute. You're on mute.
No, I was saying I agree with what you guys are saying. You guys are pretty much wrapping it up on that one. Like, I totally agree with that. Like, that's exactly the thoughts that I had on that issue.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. So with that being said, I'm gonna segue into our next topic, which is talking about Colorado shooting. So the Colorado shooting happened, I believe that was about a week and a half ago, where a guy decided that he was going to walk up into a grocery store and just start shooting people. Don't know why. Could it have been race related? Maybe, who knows? But it's domestic terrorism, period. Like full stop. And it's not right. 10 people died for no reason because they went to the grocery store. Because people needed to go buy food, they died. So first you had the people who needed to go to work and they died. Now you got people who are going to the grocery store to buy food and they died. It's senseless and it's completely ridiculous. I think we have a clip that gives a little bit more background about what happened there that day. Malik, do you have that clip ready?
Yeah, I have a clip. So basically, this young man, this 21-year-old guy, he had an assault weapon, rifle, and he went into this grocery store, like Sam was explaining to you guys, called King's Grocery Store, and he shot up and killed 10 people. I'm not too sure if anybody else is injured beside that, but we know 10 people were murdered. He's charged with 10 counts of murder, 1 count of attempted murder so far, and more charges on the way. So let's dive into this thing.
The 21-year-old suspect in this week's mass shooting in Colorado purchased the semi-automatic weapon used in the attack legally, officials said on Friday. Boulder County District Attorney Michael Dougherty told a briefing that Ahmad Aliwi Alissa purchased a Ruger AR-556 pistol, a weapon that resembles a semi-automatic rifle, 6 days before the attack. Alissa passed a background check associated with the gun buy. He pled guilty to a third-degree assault in 2018 for punching a high school classmate without warning. The owner of Eagle's Nest Armory, where the firearm was purchased, said he was shocked by the shooting, telling Reuters, quote, "Ensuring every sale that occurs at our shop is lawful has always been and will always remain the highest priority for our business." Alissa, who made his first court appearance on Thursday, has been charged with 10 counts of murder and 1 charge of attempted murder. He will face additional attempted murder charges in the coming weeks, the Boulder County DA announced Friday. His lawyer has asked the court for a full mental examination. 10 people were killed in the Colorado rampage, including a police officer. It was the second mass shooting in less than a week in the United States.
So guys,
Yeah, that was wild, man. Because like you said, yeah, that was wild, guys. Like, you know, because like you said, that was the second one that happened within the last week. And it was like it's happened like back to back. Like, you know what I'm saying? And like it's almost kind of like this is becoming like an issue in which we kind of just having these conversations since, thank God, it hasn't been school shootings, but you know what I'm saying? These have been shootings that's been taking place, but it seems like it's been going on for almost the last, what, like 10 years or so. That we've been seeing it. I know it, like when we were in school, I think the first one was that elementary school a while back, and it was like a teacher's kid that did it a while back.
Before that, before Columbine.
Columbine, was that Columbine?
Columbine was way back in like 99, 98.
But that's what I'm
99.
trying to say. Wasn't Columbine one of the teachers like kids or something like that? Like it was somebody like
Columbine
the teacher,
was the two boys who went through and shooting all kinds of shots.
Oh
so many
yeah, they
people.
had the trench coats. They had the trench coats. Yeah, they had the trench coats. Yeah. But yeah. So since then, it just seemed like, you know, we've been seeing these mass murders occurring on a national level, and it's one thing that, like you said, you know, it's tough to see because it's like, you know, it's something like we're looking at when we talked about the other day on the What's Up Wednesday. It's kind of like the same thing with police brutality, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you gonna neuralize people's rights to protect their lives, right? And so, yeah, no, definitely the country, Biden has his hands full with that, and on something that needs to get addressed. But I also want to say that although it is something that needs to get addressed, I would like to still see reparations go first.
What you gotta say to that, Malik?
What about the gun laws with reparations go first? Some of these mass shootings and reparations maybe can be linked together a little bit. Like, you know,
no, they can't.
You know,
it's two separate issues in my mind. It's two separate issues in my mind.
Yeah. It's two separate issues, but they could be kind of linked. You know, I mean, Black people have been targeted, whether it's mass shootings, lynchings, and all that stuff, domestic terrorism through the guns. So, you know, and also based off the video, I'll just keep it to the video, not the reparations comment. I noticed how she, you know, the attorney wants to, you know, go with she wants to do a mental health evaluation on the suspect. When it's a Black guy, a Black man, or a Black woman, they don't even go through that process. They shoot first, ask questions later. I don't even think a Black guy or Black woman would have made it to that point of where they're comfortable with a mask on and, you know, got the attorney to be like, man, there's something wrong with them.
Dude, he shot a cop. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna let you finish. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he murdered 10 people and attempted murder one more. There's more attempted murder charges on the way. It was a grocery store full of a bunch of people. So, I mean, I don't know about that one. But yeah, I noticed they always try to play the mental health, but when it comes to, you know, Black folks or other people, they don't do that. It's like, all right, you get into jail time. If you make it to the court date, you might have some bullets in you before, or they might do, I don't know, they might throw a bomb at you, like to get you. If you have a weapon, they're not going to go near you. They might do some other type of tactics to take you out instead of, you know, bring you in to see like, oh, what your motive was or why did you do this? So it's usually just speculation on why they did it and stuff like that. Also, he purchased the gun legally. That's another issue. That's another issue to bring up because I know President Biden, he wants to do the online ban, but this guy walked in that store apparently and just purchased a gun. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's in person or online, so I don't really see how that's going to help. You know, you can still get the weapon. He passed a background check, even though he has a record. You know, clearly it might be just, you know, because he's white, you know, so I know he has a different name, but you know, they
He's a white
treat him
guy.
right.
Yeah, he's a white guy. He's just a white guy from a different country. But he's still a white dude.
I don't know.
I mean, he might not even be from a different country. He just has a name, a Muslim name. Like, just call a spade a spade. You know what I'm saying? But he's still a white dude. As far as East's comment about reparations first, I think that our United States government is fully capable of walking and chewing gum at the same time. And I think that they can handle gun rights and reparations in tandem. I don't think one needs to happen.
I think you guys are giving them a lot of credit. Like, I think you got to understand that things can get pushed back behind, and you know what I'm saying? This could be seen to be like a hot topic issue. Well, again,
I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that they have the ability to do more than one thing at a time. Whether or not they do more than one thing at a time is a different story, but they definitely have the ability to do more than one thing at a time, because they do more than one thing at a time when it serves them. That's just how our government runs. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But there was something else. It was, he did get the gun legally 6 days in advance by walking into a store, you know, and like you said, Malik, if you're doing away with stuff online, what does that do for, if he's got a mental health issue, then why are there not more stringent requirements to help wean things out like that? Like, the guy had a history of violence. And on top of that, he may have had mental health issues and things like that. And it's not to say it's supposed to be discriminatory against those with mental health issues, because a lot of people do have mental health issues. Doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be irresponsible with guns. You just have to look to see to what extent, right? I
disagree, Sam. I just think, because if you're going to promote, like, okay, he doesn't deserve the death penalty or a life sentence because he has mental health issues, you can't have anybody with mental health issues having gun ownership. If they do have mental health issues, they should have to go.
But that's what I'm saying. If you have somebody that suffers from
requirements, Sam.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like you should fall on a spectrum. And if you were within a certain parameter on that spectrum, then you need to be evaluating whether or not somebody should have be a gun owner, right? Like, if you have somebody who has a mild case of anxiety, you know what I mean? You shouldn't restrict their right. But at the same time, if you have somebody who has severe depression and they're willing to hurt themselves or others, then they probably shouldn't have, you know what I'm saying, guns. I think that's a deeper conversation for another day, you know, just talking about gun ownership and things like that. But, you know, I just wanted to touch on that. I think that we can do things in tandem, because we definitely still need to get our reparations. I think that, you know, President Biden definitely needs to him and Congress, they need to do something about these gun laws. I don't know what, but they need to figure it out, because the Sandy Hook thing was a complete travesty. It was one of the things Obama failed to get taken care of. I know he was really hurt by that, because that's the one, Everett, where the kid, his parent worked at the school and he came in there and he shot up all those babies. You know, that's the one you're thinking about. That was Sandy Hook. And so with relation to what happened in Colorado, we had also, like, right around that same day, the 17th of March, an attempted copycat, I guess, type situation happened in Atlanta. Down in Atlantic Station, guy walks up into the grocery store with long guns and a trench coat. There's an article on that one too. Did you want to go ahead and show that really quickly, Malik? I'll go over that real quick.
If I can pull it up. Let me see. One moment.
Yeah.
Okay, I can pull it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
But the problem is, let me see. Hold on.
But yeah, I can agree though. I think that, like, you know, all of the things that's been going on as far as, like, with those mass shootings have definitely been things that's been kind of troubling to see. And it's like, you know, we as a nation have to get something going. And I think, you know, stringent tests for people who may be identified as having, you know, mental health issues or be having them have to have a sponsor or some individual who is going to be like co-owner with the gun, who would also, you know what I'm saying, be liable to say, you know, hey, you know, not only this person can have a gun that's technically theirs, but that's owned in co-ownership or under the steward of, you know, another individual, so that they can make sure that, you know, we aren't just having people, we're not necessarily infringing on people's rights, but at the same time, we're being able to safeguard the public.
I see what you're saying, but like I said, I mean, it's a tough balance to kind of create,
Certainly
right?
is,
Yeah,
absolutely
it's definitely a tough balance to create. So here's the article. You want to go over it, Malik? You want me to do it?
You kind of know more about that situation than I do, so you know.
Okay, so like I said, just a few days after the shooting in Colorado, a guy goes into a grocery store in Atlantic Station. Now, for our viewers that don't know Atlantic Station is in Midtown Atlanta. It's its own little community, has different types of shops, stores, restaurants, apartments, hotels, things like that. It's a tourist attraction. Lots of people go there. I know last time they've been building and doing some refurbishing and things of that nature over there, but there's a grocery store over there. And most of the people that live over there in that area go to that grocery store. And like the article says, shortly after 1:30, a manager called the police and told them that an armed man had entered the store and headed straight to the bathroom. He was heavily armed. He had long guns. When they saw him leave the bathroom, he had 2 long guns and 3 pistols. Now you got 2 hands, right? 2 hands. Why do you have 3 pistols and 2 long guns? Like that means you plan on emptying the clip on everything. You know what I'm saying?
He had on body armor too.
Right, you know, and so right, and the man, he was only 22 years old. Right. And here's the thing that gets me: he's charged with reckless conduct. Reckless conduct. Yeah, that was his charge.
Very generous.
Are you kidding me?
They say he's going under a mental health psychiatric evaluation.
I understand. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I work in indigent defense, and it's very, very sad when we have our clients come through and they have mental health issues and they need help and they don't need to be in jail. But they're like, our criminal justice system really needs a huge upheaval. You know, there has got to be something put in place to help our community that has mental health problems. If there were more resources there for them, this would be less likely to happen. Doesn't mean it would never happen, because definitely things are going to fall through the cracks, things like that. But this right here, it's troubling, right? Because you have somebody that's sick, but you're putting, there's people that are all out here in danger. Now, if you're able to help those people, most of them that are sick, you minimize this type of thing from happening. One thing I wanted to, I don't know if you guys can jump in, but one of the things I want to touch on really, really quickly that I meant to mention, I just wanted to mention, I don't want to go too deep into it. The thing in Colorado that happened, that guy killed a police officer. A police officer was amongst those 10 people. Here's the thing. Down the street, same town, same state, Elijah McClain, an introverted boy who used to go play his violin for sick cats at a veterinarian, literally got murdered by the police for walking down the street with a mask on because his face was cold because he was anemic. No justice for Elijah McClain, but here you got this dude who just ran up in the daggone grocery store and shot 10 people, including one of their brothers in blue, and he got to walk out of there. It's just food for thought. I think that also is very disturbing. But you guys, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, no, I just think that speaks to like.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to Sam. I think I just want to not piggyback, but just reference to what I was saying earlier. It just goes to like the way of like the value of life that they put on certain things, and you can kind of see that how individuals can lose their life for, you know what I'm saying, for lesser, You know what I'm saying? But then some individuals can go out here and they get kind of judged, they get kind of charges, they get the benefit of the doubt of being able to receive the benefits of the programs that may be in to help other individuals who actually have mental health issues, as opposed to someone who clearly has an intent to do harm. So it's like all of those things are things that I think need to be addressed in order for our nation to truly, function in the way, in the manner in which it was intended to.
Mhm.
Right. I just think that goes to what we were saying earlier about how, different groups get different treatment, primarily like, Black people getting treated different from white people, even other groups. So, like, I feel like we always get the short end of the stick. Our victims, you know, are being held against in trial. Like the trial's put against the victim, not the perpetrator of the crime. Um, Also, when it comes to our community, we don't have any mental health issues. Black people, we don't have any mental health issues. We're always fine. We're too strong. We're too aggressive. Ain't nothing wrong with us. It's just that's how we are naturally. So even if we do have mental issues, they're saying that's just your normal state, right? This guy, he walks into a Publix with 5 guns, and they're talking about, oh, it was reckless conduct. We just need to evaluate you mentally, see what's wrong. I mean, you have Tamir Rice, a little boy. He was playing outside. He just gets gunned down on sight. And this guy, he walks in with body armor, 5 guns. They found all that stuff. They didn't shoot him on sight, so it's clearly an objective here. And they also, I mean, the FBI already put it out that the law enforcement has been infiltrated by white supremacists and racists. So that's even more evidence that that's happened because of what we're seeing on display now, like with all these killings and then the law enforcement's reactions to these murders and these crimes and this terrorism. It's like they're like, man, it's just, oh, the guy's having a bad day, something wrong with him mentally. It seems like the legal and justice system and the law enforcement, everything, everybody's all in on it, and white supremacy has infiltrated all of those areas and is working to a T. So we have to find a way to break that system. And Joe Biden, you have to, the onus is on you. If the Democrats want to like win any more elections, I think they really need to do a good job and like do right by, people who are being oppressed, primarily Black people, but other groups of people as well. But specifically Black people, you got to make that a priority because those are the people that help you out. Everybody else, they vote other ways, but Black people primarily vote Democrats. So you got to take care of those people first. So to each point, like you got to take care of the people who take care of you first. Then you get to the rest of the people. So you can't keep making that excuse like, well, I got to take care of everybody when it comes to people. When it comes to gays' rights, Asian rights, all these other groups that split their votes, you can take care of them. But when Black people hold you down and your backbone, you don't want to take care of them. So that's my final thoughts. I think the relationships kind of fracture between different groups when it comes to Black people due to the history of the relationship, the mistreatment, the disrespect. But when it comes time when bad things happen, that's when they want to call on Black people like, why aren't you supporting us enough? Why aren't you doing this enough? Like, no, we done enough. It's time for you guys to stand on your own legs and see how it feels because we always have to stand on our own 2 legs. Y'all got legs just like we do. Y'all can stand on them. You don't need us. You don't need to stand on our backs. Y'all got backs. You can stand on your own backs. For lack of better words.
Yeah. And like you said about the infiltration of white supremacy and law enforcement, we didn't talk about it, but that sheriff out here in Atlanta, they found his Facebook had a bunch of stuff on there to show that he was, advocating Asian hate. That's not okay. And I think, for my final thought, like I've mentioned before, this is our planet. We all have to live here together. Black folks are not inherently racist. They may be prejudiced, but it all comes from a place of experience and being oppressed. And one of the things that Malik just said that I agree with, what I wanted to add to it was that taking care of Black people first, not necessarily just because of an election and because, you know, Democrats stand on the backs of Black people, but also too because Black people are the most oppressed. People want to argue, but you're arguing with yourself because there's nothing anybody can say that's going to change my mind about that statement. And with regards to Asian hate and domestic terrorism, all hate needs to stop. Is it going to stop? No, but it should. And the domestic terrorism, really got to do something to try to minimize that. That's my final thought. I just think that we as a country need to do better, take care of each other, and try to be more kind to one another. Because, you know, we are living in a place right now where, you know, all of these things coupled with the pandemic, it just makes things a lot more difficult. So I think that we just got to do better as a country, and we got to be better to one another. And that's my final thought.
I agree with you guys, and wrapping up everything, you know what I'm saying? We just got to do better as a nation as a whole and hold more people accountable. So I just want to tell everybody, you know, please like, subscribe, you know, check us out on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook as well. We're also doing the What's Up Wednesdays. We want to thank you guys for checking us out live on that. I'm at that guy 2104. Appreciate your time.
Yep, and I am Samantha Renee _77 on Instagram and Samantha Adams -ESQ on Facebook. Also, please follow us on our Facebook and Instagram page, Counterpoise Podcast, and on our YouTube, because all of our lives also get placed on our YouTube page. So if you miss us, you can always go back and watch us. Follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, just like E said. And again, thank you. We love you. Go ahead, Malik.
Oh yeah, just to add to my co-host's comments. Yeah, if there's something you guys want us to talk about, you know, let us know. Comment on the video, comment on YouTube. We'll look at it and see if that's something that we'd be interested in discussing. So please let us know. And like they said, like, comment, subscribe, follow us. We do this every week. What's Up Wednesdays is every week on Wednesdays around the evening time, 8 or so. And these live videos are at 2 p.m. every Saturday. So check us out. And you can follow me. My handle on all social media handles is Malik M. Foster. So that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you need. TikTok, I think I even got that too. So it's all Malik M. Foster. So y'all can just check us out. And we out of here.
Yeah, we're gonna catch Malik doing the money dance to the Counterpoise music on his TikTok.
The money dance, the workout dance. But I got a little. Hey.